Imagine this, you're in the middle of a high-stakes situation, the pressure's mounting, people are looking to you for answers. And in that moment, you have two choices: react or respond. Most people react. They let stress take the wheel, they raise their voices, make impulsive decisions, and let their emotions dictate their actions. For the best leaders, the ones who inspire, the ones who navigate uncertainty with grace, they master the art of staying calm. The question is how? How do you train your mind to remain steady when the world around you is anything but? Let's talk about it. Think of the most chaotic moments in your life, the ones that tested you, the ones that pushed you to the edge. Maybe it was a high-pressure meeting, an unexpected crisis, or a conversation that didn't go as planned. In those moments, what was the first thing that spiraled out of control? It wasn't the situation itself. It was your mind. The way we experience stress, pressure, or uncertainty isn't dictated by the external world. It's dictated by how we process it internally. And that means the key to staying calm, no matter what, is understanding that your mind is not just a bystander in these situations. It's the control center, it's the cockpit of an aircraft, the command center of a battlefield, the bridge of a ship navigating rough waters. Now imagine a pilot mid-flight when turbulence hits. The aircraft starts to shake, the warning lights flash, passengers hold their breath. But in that moment, the pilot doesn't panic. Why? Because they've trained for this. They know exactly what to do. Their mind has been conditioned to stay calm, assess the situation, and take action based on logic, not fear. The same applies to us. Life throws turbulence our way. Tight deadlines, difficult conversations, unpredictable setbacks. And when we haven't trained our minds, we do what untrained pilots would do. We react emotionally, we let fear take the controls, and we make decisions that are driven by stress instead of strategy. But what if we trained ourselves differently? The brain is a pattern recognition machine. It takes past experiences, connects them to the present, and influences how we react. If we constantly associate stress with panic, then every challenge triggers that same response. But if we begin associating challenges with composure, with clarity, with control, then our responses shift. Think of elite military units, firefighters, or surgeons in an emergency room. These individuals don't just stay calm because they're naturally wired that way. They stay calm because their minds have been conditioned to do so. They've been trained to take control of their thoughts before their thoughts take control of them. And that's the secret. Calm isn't something you find, it's something you create. It's not a switch you flip in stressful moments, it's a habit you build every single day. Stress has a way of making us feel powerless. When things don't go according to plan, when deadlines pile up, when people let us down, when life throws an unexpected curveball, it's easy to spiral into frustration, anxiety, even panic. But here's the hard truth. Most of what stresses us is completely out of our control. Think about it. You can't control the economy. You can't control how other people react. You can't control traffic, the weather, or whether your boss is in a bad mood today. And yet, these are often the very things that consume our energy, drain our focus, and hijack our peace of mind. The more time we spend obsessing over things we can't control, the less time we have to focus on the things we can. And that's where the shift happens. Picture yourself in the middle of a storm, standing outside with your arms raised, screaming at the sky to stop the rain. It wouldn't make a difference. The storm will do what storms do. Move in, make noise, and eventually pass. But what if, instead of trying to control the storm, you focused on what was within your power? You could take cover, you could grab an umbrella, you could change your route to avoid the worst of it. Life works the same way. Challenges are inevitable. Uncertainty is guaranteed. But when you learn to shift your energy away from the uncontrollable and toward what you can influence, everything changes. Athletes understand this better than anyone. A basketball player stepping up for a game-winning free throw can't control the noise of the crowd, the pressure of the moment, or how the defenders react. But what can they control? Their breathing, their routine, their mindset. A tennis player can't control their opponent's skill level, but they can control their preparation, their footwork, their strategy. It's the same in business, in relationships, in leadership, in life. You can't control whether someone likes you, but you can control how you show up, how you communicate, how you respond. You can't control if an opportunity presents itself, but you can control how prepared you are when it does. You can't control setbacks, but you can control your effort, your attitude, your resilience. The problem is most people waste energy trying to change things that were never theirs to change in the first place. They argue with reality. They fight against circumstances instead of adapting to them. They focus on blaming, complaining, and wishing things were different instead of taking action on what's within their power. The most effective people, the ones who lead, the ones who inspire, the ones who remain steady under pressure, have mastered this distinction. They don't get lost in what they wish they could control. They zero in on what they can control, and they pour their energy into that. Most people think that high-pressure situations require immediate action, that the faster we respond, the more effective we are. But the truth is, the moments that demand urgency are the moments when a pause is most valuable. Because when we react without thinking, we don't make decisions, we let emotions make them for us. Think about the last time you were in a heated conversation. Maybe someone said something that struck a nerve, and before you even realized it, words flew out of your mouth. Maybe it was an email that frustrated you, and instead of waiting, you hit reply with a response that you later regretted. Or maybe it was a stressful situation at work, and instead of assessing the bigger picture, you jumped into action without fully understanding the problem. In each of these moments, a single pause could have changed everything. The pause is the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is instinctive, emotional, impulsive. A response is intentional, measured, and wise. And the ability to pause, to create that small space between stimulus and action, is one of the greatest advantages a person can have. Think of the best leaders, the ones people trust in times of crisis. They don't panic, they don't lash out, they don't rush to conclusions. Instead, they take a breath, they assess, they think, and only then do they move forward. That's not because they don't feel pressure, it's because they know that clarity is found in stillness, not in chaos. In the world of emergency response, there's a saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's counterintuitive, but it's true. When paramedics arrive at an accident scene, they don't sprint to the injured person and start working immediately. They pause. They assess the environment. They determine what needs to happen first. That small moment of stillness allows them to act with precision instead of panic. The same principle applies to everyday life. When emotions run high, when stress mounts, when the stakes are high, pausing gives us a moment to reset. It allows the rational part of our brain to catch up to the emotional part. It helps us see the situation for what it is, not just how it feels in the moment. The pause doesn't have to be long. It can be a single breath before speaking, a few seconds before answering a question, a short moment to collect your thoughts before responding to an email. The length doesn't matter. What matters is the space it creates, because in that space, we regain control. And the best part, the more we practice the pause, the more natural it becomes. It turns from something we do intentionally to something that happens instinctively. We train ourselves to remain steady, to think before we act, to approach challenges with a level head instead of letting them dictate our actions. Stress, pressure, setbacks, we all experience them. And for most people, the default response is resistance. We fight against the situation. We wish it weren't happening. We ask, why me? Why now? But the problem with resistance is that it doesn't change the reality of the situation. It just drains our energy, leaving us frustrated, exhausted, and stuck. Imagine standing in the ocean, facing an incoming wave. If you plant your feet, tense up, and try to stop it with sheer force, what happens? The wave knocks you over. It overpowers you. But if you dive into it, if you move with it instead of against it, you come out on the other side, steady, in control, unharmed. Life works the same way. The challenges we face aren't the problem, it's how we choose to approach them. And the key to staying calm under pressure isn't resistance, it's reframing. Reframing is the ability to take a difficult situation and shift the way we see it. It's not about pretending everything is fine, it's about changing the way we interpret what's happening, because the way we perceive a situation dictates how we experience it. Take stress, for example. Most people see stress as the enemy, something to be avoided or eliminated. But studies show that the way we think about stress directly affects its impact on us. If we believe stress is harmful, our bodies respond as if we're under attack. Our heart races, our breathing becomes shallow, our mind goes into fight or flight mode. But if we see stress as fuel, as something that sharpens us, strengthens us, and prepares us for what's ahead, our bodies react differently. Our heart still beats faster, but our focus sharpens, our resilience builds, and we rise to the challenge instead of shrinking from it. This is why some people crumble under pressure while others thrive. It's not that one group has fewer challenges, it's that they've learned to reframe them. Think about a time you faced a setback. Maybe it was a missed opportunity, a failure, or an unexpected change. The instinctive reaction might have been frustration, disappointment, maybe even anger. But what if, instead of seeing it as a loss, you reframed it as an opportunity? Instead of "this is unfair, I don't deserve this," reframe it as "what is this teaching me?" Instead of "I failed," reframe it as "this is part of the process." Instead of "everything is falling apart," reframe it as "this is a pivot point. Where do I go from here?" History is filled with people who turned obstacles into opportunities simply because they refused to resist reality. They reframed it. Athletes who turned career-ending injuries into new ventures. Entrepreneurs who used rejection as motivation. Leaders who saw challenges not as roadblocks but as stepping stones. The world isn't going to remove obstacles from our path. Uncertainty isn't going away. Setbacks will always exist. But what we do have control over is the way we see them. We can either resist and exhaust ourselves trying to fight reality, or we can reframe and use every challenge as fuel for growth. Fear, frustration, anxiety, excitement, doubt. Every day we experience an endless stream of emotions, some subtle, some overwhelming, some that feel like they're controlling us entirely. And for most people, emotions dictate their actions. When they feel angry, they lash out. When they feel anxious, they avoid. When they feel frustrated, they give up. But here's the truth. Emotions are not orders. They are not commands that must be obeyed. They are signals, data points meant to inform us, not control us. And the key to mastering your mind, to staying calm under pressure, is learning to separate what you feel from what you do. Think about a car dashboard. When a warning light turns on, low fuel, engine trouble, tire pressure, you don't panic and abandon the car. You don't let the light dictate your entire driving experience. Instead, you use it as information. It tells you something needs attention, but you decide what to do with that information. Do you pull over immediately? Do you wait until the next gas station? Do you assess the situation before taking action? The light doesn't control you, you use it to make a decision. Emotions work the same way. Fear, for example, is one of the most misunderstood emotions. Most people treat fear as a stop sign, something that signals danger and should be avoided. But fear is not always an indicator to stop. Sometimes fear is just alerting us to something new, something unknown, something outside of our comfort zone. And if we treat every moment of fear as a reason to retreat, we miss opportunities for growth. Consider an athlete before a big game, a performer before stepping on stage, or a leader before making a difficult decision. Their heart races, their palms sweat, their stomach tightens. Most people would call that anxiety. But what if it's just energy? What if it's the body preparing for the moment ahead? The same physiological response that comes with fear also comes with excitement. The difference is the interpretation. This is why reframing emotions is so powerful. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, say, I'm ready. Instead of saying, I'm stressed, say, I'm engaged. Instead of saying, I'm scared, say, I'm stepping into something meaningful. The feeling doesn't disappear, but the meaning behind it shifts. And that changes everything. Another misunderstood emotion is anger. Most people either suppress it, pretending it doesn't exist, or they let it explode, saying things they later regret. But anger is just data. It's a signal that something we care about feels threatened. Our values, our sense of fairness, our expectations. Instead of letting anger control us, we can pause and ask, what is this telling me? Maybe it's telling us that we need to have a hard conversation. Maybe it's showing us where we've been tolerating something we shouldn't. Maybe it's pointing to an unresolved issue we need to address. The same applies to sadness, frustration, disappointment. These emotions are not instructions. They are not telling us what to do. They are telling us what to pay attention to. And when we learn to interpret emotions rather than obey them, we gain control over how we respond. Highly effective people, leaders, decision makers, those who remain calm under pressure, are not emotionless. They feel everything, but they don't let emotions dictate their actions. They use emotions the way a pilot uses flight instruments, to gather information, assess conditions, and then decide the best course of action. Because at the end of the day, emotions are real, but they are not always right. They are part of the equation, but they are not the final answer. And the moment we learn to treat emotions as data, not directives, is the moment we take back control. Chaos is contagious. Walk into a room where people are frantic, overwhelmed, and on edge, and you'll feel it immediately. The tension in the air, the short tempers, the rushed decisions, these things spread. And before you know it, you're caught up in the same frantic energy. But here's the thing. Calm is just as contagious. In any environment, whether it's a workplace, a family, a team, someone is always setting the tone. And the question is, who is it? If no one is intentional about creating a calm culture, stress and anxiety will take over by default. Because stress doesn't need an invitation. It thrives in uncertainty, pressure, and fear. Calm, on the other hand, has to be built. It has to be cultivated. Think about the leaders who have had the biggest impact on you. The ones who made you feel steady even in the face of challenges. The ones who kept a clear head when everything around them seemed chaotic. They weren't calm because they had fewer problems. They were calm because they chose to be. And that choice shaped the environment around them. Now imagine the opposite. A leader who crumbles under pressure, someone who reacts emotionally, who lets stress dictate their decisions. That energy spreads too. It creates a culture of reactivity, of uncertainty, of fear. And people in those environments don't think clearly. They don't make good decisions. They operate in survival mode, always waiting for the next fire to put out. Building a calm culture doesn't mean avoiding challenges. It doesn't mean pretending that problems don't exist. It means creating an environment where pressure is met with clarity instead of chaos. Where people feel safe enough to think, to collaborate, to navigate obstacles without being paralyzed by stress. So how do you do that? 1, set the emotional tone. Calm cultures start at the top. Whether you're leading a team, a family, or even just yourself, your energy influences the people around you. If you react with panic, others will follow. If you react with composure, others will mirror that. The best leaders, whether in business, sports, or life, don't just tell people to stay calm, they show them how to slow down to speed up. Most people think that high performance requires urgency, but the opposite is true. In environments where people rush, mistakes happen. Miscommunication spreads, bad decisions compound. Calm cultures prioritize precision over speed. They encourage people to pause, to assess, to act with intention rather than impulse. Because when you move with clarity, you actually get more done with fewer mistakes, less stress, and better results. 3. Normalize challenges. In high-stress cultures, problems feel like personal failures. People panic when things don't go according to plan because they believe it should have been smooth. But calm cultures recognize that challenges are part of the process. They remove the shame around problems and replace it with problem solving. They reinforce the mindset that obstacles are normal, not reasons to lose control. 4. Create psychological safety. People can't think clearly if they feel like they're walking on eggshells, if they're afraid of making mistakes, if they feel like any misstep will lead to blame or punishment. They will operate from fear, not from confidence. Calm cultures create spaces where people can express concerns, ask questions, and admit when they need help without the fear of being judged or criticized. Because clarity thrives in safety. 5. Train the pause. Panic is a habit, so is calm. And the best teams, the best families, the best leaders train for it. They normalize the pause. Instead of rushing into action, they take a moment to collect themselves, assess the situation, and respond strategically. Whether it's a team meeting, a difficult conversation, or a high-pressure moment, they build the habit of slowing down before making a move. 6. Focus on what's controllable. In stressful environments, people waste energy on things they can't change. They obsess over problems instead of solutions. But calm cultures redirect that energy. They acknowledge the uncontrollable, but focus on the actionable. Instead of dwelling on what's wrong, they ask, what's next? What can we do? And that shift from helplessness to action makes all the difference. Cultures, whether in companies, families, or teams, don't happen by accident. They are shaped by the habits, the mindsets, and the emotional patterns of the people within them. And in a world that constantly pulls us towards stress and urgency, the ability to build a calm culture isn't just a skill, it's a competitive advantage. Mastering your mind isn't about eliminating stress, avoiding pressure, or pretending emotions don't exist. It's about learning to navigate them with intention. It's about recognizing that your mind is your command center and you have the ability to train it. You have the ability to control what's within your power, to pause before reacting, to reframe challenges instead of resisting them, to treat emotions as data rather than directives, and to build a culture, both internally and externally, that thrives in calm rather than chaos. The world isn't slowing down, uncertainty isn't going away, but the people who rise above it, the ones who lead, who inspire, who remain steady no matter the storm, aren't the ones who avoid difficulty. They're the ones who master their minds so that difficulty never masters them. Because in the end, calm isn't something you find, it's something you create. And when you do, everything changes.